Welcome to the 2018-19 NCAA Men's Basketball Instructional Training video. I am J.D. Collins, the NCAA National Coordinator of Men's Basketball Officiating. It is my honor to serve the game of basketball and work with the officiating community. During this instructional video, we will review key plays from this past season, and we will look at how the new rules and/or interpretations will impact how the game is officiated this season. We will also review plays in response to the Rules Committee's ongoing directive to reduce physicality to create freedom of movement. I am responsible for the script and the plays selected in this video. Please note, no attempt was made to embarrass any institution, coach, student athlete, or official. All clips are used for the purpose of making officiating better. The goal of this instructional video is to develop a national style of officiating that will result in a consistent enforcement of the rules during the preseason, non-conference, conference, and tournament play. It is all of the stakeholders' desire to have the same play officiated the same way, no matter what conference or geographic region the game is located. We will continue this effort throughout the season with periodic video bulletins posted on the NCAA Men's Basketball website. I hope you will make it a habit to view these video bulletins regularly and often. I would like to begin by acknowledging and congratulating all officials and coordinators on a job well done last season. Last year's rules changes and the directive to reduce physicality to create freedom of movement continued the positive effort to enhance our game. Thank you for your efforts to improve the game. While progress has been made, it is imperative that officials continue to address illegal acts. Our fouls per team per game are down 1.19 over the last 3 seasons. There have been adjustments by coaches, players, and officials that justify some of the decline. Our call accuracy is outstanding when we blow the whistle. Our biggest area of improvement is no call incorrects, plays where we should have blown the whistle. Commit to engaging each of the directives to reduce physicality and don't back down during 2018-19. The Rules Committee met in early May to discuss the rules for the upcoming season. This is a non-rules change year, and yet the Rules Committee took action on several items that will be described in this instructional video. The content of this video was shared with D1, D2, and D3 coaches nationally on August 1st, 2018. There should be no surprises, and most coaches will have adjusted well to this year's rules changes by the beginning of the season. First and foremost, the Rules Committee has directed the National Coordinator to continue the enforcement of the directive to reduce physicality to create freedom of movement. Officials should continue their efforts to reduce physicality by calling fouls on illegal actions.
The Rules Committee specifically asked the officiating community to continue the directive to reduce physicality to create freedom of movement in the following 6 areas. Hand checking or body bumping the ball handler, Rule 10.1.4. Freedom of movement for cutters. Screening. Offense-initiated contact on legal defenders. Post play. And rebounding. The Rules Committee also asked officials to be diligent in calling the rules as written. Additional focus will be given to traveling, especially on the perimeter and in the post. Elimination of the hook and hold play. Screen and roll plays, and consistent enforcement of the coach's box and unsporting behavior. We will now look at some specific plays relative to each of the directives.
We have made significant progress in the past 4 years giving the ball handler freedom of movement. Officials are instructed to continue the enforcement of Rule 10.1.4 and not back down. Let's look at some plays.
As number 2 red crosses half court, number 2 white defends by reaching with his left arm and hindering the progress of 2 red. The official correctly calls a 10.1.4 foul on 2 white. As 31 red drives to his left, 0 white places his left hand on the offensive player's hip and reaches with his right hand. The lead official correctly calls a 10.1.4 foul on 0 white. Unlike the last 2 plays, this foul goes uncalled. Number 2 blue drives to his right, and 13 white uses his right arm to push the defender and impedes his progress. This is a foul and needed to be called. Officials are instructed that if the defender is legal, that is, he places both feet on the floor facing his opponent, do not reward offense-initiated contact. As number 10 white drives the lane, 22 blue maintains his legal guarding position by moving laterally or obliquely. 10 white initiates all of the contact and is rewarded with a defensive foul. This was not a defensive foul and should not have been called.
Cutters must be allowed freedom of movement. Officials have done an acceptable job of allowing cutters to move freely. The rules book states in order to maintain legal guarding position on a player without the ball, the guard shall give the opponent enough time and distance to avoid contact. Let's look at some plays.
21 gray holds 10 blue, the cutter, as 10 blue attempts to cut for the ball. The official correctly calls a freedom of movement foul on 21 gray. 24 white attempts to cut to the basket. 0 black chucks and holds 24 white with his left arm. The center official correctly calls a freedom of movement foul on 0 black. Defenders will often hold or chuck cutters as they fight around screens. Number 15 red sets a legal screen on 0 white. 0 white holds 3 red with both hands. The center official correctly calls a freedom of movement foul on 0 white. During this throw-in, 21 white cuts for the ball. 23 black holds 21 white with both hands. The center official, who is in excellent position, correctly calls a freedom of movement foul on 23 black. Defenders chuck cutters to throw off the timing of their plays. On this play, number 4 blue chicken wings number 4 gray and obviously impedes him. Both the center and lead officials correctly call a freedom of movement foul on number 4 blue.
Based on the Rules Committee's directives, the officiating community has focused on the legality of screening over the past few seasons. We will continue this effort during 2018-19 by narrowing in on screening trends. We will now look at several types of screening plays. When an offensive player hands the ball off to a teammate and then steps into the path of a moving opponent, it is an illegal screen. Offensive screeners must give the opponent time and distance to stop or change direction. This also happens when an offensive player pivots into a moving opponent.
Number 13 white dribbles to the right wing, hands off the ball, and picks off a moving defender. In order for 13 white to set a legal screen, he would have had to be stationary and allow 2 blue enough time and distance to stop or change direction. Number 3 black dribbles to the left wing, hands the ball off to his teammate, and then pivots into a moving defender. This is an illegal screen and should have been called. In a variation to the play, 0 green throws the ball to his teammate, 23 green. 23 green then pivots into the path of a moving opponent, number 3 white. The official correctly calls an illegal screen on 23 green.
The next series of plays is a variation of the handoff screen, but is still an illegal screen. Offensive players will often pitch the ball off early to their teammate and then screen the on-ball defender. This is still a screening play, and all of the screening rules apply. Officials must determine if the offensive player is a screener or a cutter.
13 White dribbles to the right wing, pitches the ball early to his teammate, takes several steps, and screens the on-ball defender. 13 White never gets stationary and is correctly called for an illegal screen. 32 White drives to his left, pitches the ball early to his teammate, takes several steps, and screens the on-ball defender, 20 Black. 32 White never gets stationary and is correctly called for an illegal screen. 25 Red pitches the ball to 5 Red. 25 Red has not yet established himself as a cutter and illegally screens 0 Black, the on-ball defender. The official correctly calls an illegal screen on 25 Red.
A new trend is developing in college basketball. The defensive player is now blowing up certain screening plays. The following plays show a cutter getting blown up by the defense. Officials are instructed to look for this new tactic and penalize appropriately.
13 White passes the ball to his teammate and cuts to the lane. 13 White is clearly a cutter, and 15 Blue steps toward his path and chucks 13 White. This play is correctly ruled a defensive foul. 0 Blue passes the ball to his teammate. 0 Blue appears to be a cutter when in reality he is screening the on-ball defender, and 4 White steps into his path and blows up the screen set by 0 Blue. 4 White had the opportunity to allow 0 Blue to continue on his path. When 2 illegal actions happen by opponents, officials are instructed to call a double foul on the play. 24 Blue passes the ball to his teammate. 24 Blue appears to be a cutter when in reality he is performing a rub screen on 55 White. 55 White sees the screen coming and never gives 24 Blue enough time or distance to avoid contact by blowing up the screen. When 2 illegal actions happen by opponents, officials are instructed to call a double foul on the play. While this play may be of poor quality, it clearly shows the same thing happening at the D3 level. 22 Gray passes the ball to his teammate. 22 Gray is clearly a cutter, and 33 Red steps into his path and blows up the potential screen. 33 Red had the opportunity to allow 22 Gray to continue on his path. This play should have been called a defensive foul on 33 Red for impeding a cutter. Unlike the last play, 32 White veers off his path as a cutter to screen 14 Black. 32 White pitches the ball to his teammate and begins to make a cut. 32 White veers off his path to the right to make contact with and illegally screen 14 Black as he tries to go around 32 White. The officials correctly call an illegal screen on 32 White.
The screen and roll play is a significant part of any basketball game. The current trend is for the defender to go under the screen. Officials are instructed to determine who got to the position first. If the defender gets there first, the offensive man cannot roll into him to screen him.
11 Gray attempts to set a screen on 20 White. 11 Gray never gets stationary and rolls into 20 White. It is important to note that 20 White gets to the position first and 11 Gray rolls into him. This screen is correctly called an illegal screen by the official. 34 Gray attempts to set a screen on 10 Black. 34 Gray never gets stationary and rolls into 10 Black. 10 Black gets to the position first and 34 Gray rolls into him. This screen is correctly called an illegal screen by the official. 0 Blue sets a legal screen on 55 White, pivots, and then rolls to the basket. Zero blue pivots correctly and gets to the position first. This screening action is legal. The illegal portion of this play is when zero blue uses his left straight arm to ward off 55 white. 21 white attempts to screen 23 black. 23 black goes under the screen and gets to the position first. 21 white pivots into 23 black, and the official correctly calls an illegal screen on this pick and roll play.
Again this year, officials should be looking for excessively wide screens. Officials are instructed to not split hairs on this play and yet not allow excessively wide screens.
Zero black attempts to set a screen on 15 white. Zero black obviously sets an excessively wide screen. The officials correctly call an illegal screen on zero black. 25 black attempts to set a screen on 5 gray. 25 black obviously sets an excessively wide screen. The officials correctly call an illegal screen on 25 black. 12 red attempts to set a screen on 4 white. 12 red obviously sets an excessively wide screen and impedes the progress of 4 white. This was an illegal wide screen and needed to be called. Number 4 white attempts to set a screen on 5 red. Number 4 white obviously sets an excessively wide screen and impedes the progress of 5 red. This was an illegal wide screen and needed to be called.
When an offensive player sets an excessively wide screen or any type of illegal screen and the defender blows up the screen, officials are instructed to call a double foul since both players are committing illegal acts.
This play shows 2 illegal actions by opponents. First, 24 white attempts to set an illegal moving screen, and second, 2 black illegally chucks the screener in an attempt to blow up the screen. This year, officials are instructed to call a double foul on this type of play. 4 white sets an illegal moving screen. 22 blue attempts to blow up the screen by running through it and hits 4 white square in the chest. This is also an illegal act. During 2018-19, if the official judges both screening activities to be illegal, you are instructed to call a double foul on this play. 4 blue attempts to set a screen on 21 gray. 4 blue never gets stationary and is illegal. 21 gray sees the screener and never tries to avoid him. 21 gray is illegal due to the fact that he attempts to blow up the screen by running through it. Officials are instructed to call a double foul on this type of play.
The officiating community did a better job of adjudicating blind back screens last season. The rules book states, a player shall not cause contact by setting a screen outside the visual field of a stationary opponent that does not allow this opponent a normal step to move. Officials are instructed to continue to focus on this illegal tactic.
2 white attempts to set a blind back screen on 3 blue. 2 white was outside 3 blue's visual field. 2 white did not allow 3 blue a step to move or change direction. The center official correctly called an illegal screen on 2 white. 3 blue attempts to set a blind back screen on 3 white. 3 blue was outside 3 white's visual field. 3 blue did not allow 3 white a step to move or change direction. The trail official correctly called an illegal screen on 3 blue.
In addition, officials have done well when the defender legally walls up at the basket. This season, we will increase our focus on offense-initiated contact on drives to the basket down the free throw lane lines. Offensive players should not be rewarded when they initiate contact with a legal defender. This type of play should result in either a no call or, if egregious enough, an offensive foul. Officials are instructed to determine if the defender is in legal guarding position, and if so, not reward the offense when they initiate contact.
5 red is defending 10 white. 5 red establishes legal guarding position by placing both feet on the floor facing his opponent and moves to maintain that position legally by moving laterally or obliquely. 10 white initiates all of the contact on this play. The official incorrectly calls a defensive foul on 5 red. Officials are instructed to not reward offensive initiated contact on legal defenders. 10 red is defending 14 white. 10 red establishes legal guarding position by placing both feet on the floor facing his opponent and moves to maintain that position legally by moving laterally or obliquely. 14 white initiates all of the contact on this play. The official correctly calls an offensive foul on 14 white. Officials are instructed to not reward offensive initiated contact on legal defenders. 1 gold drives to the basket and 24 blue legally walls up to defend the play. All of the contact was initiated by the offense. The official correctly no calls this play. 23 white drives the left wing. 4 red defends the play by establishing legal guarding position with both feet on the floor facing his opponent before the opponent goes airborne. 23 white initiates all of the contact on this play. The officials correctly no call this play. Officials are instructed to look for the double clutch by the offense. Most often when this happens, the offensive player is preparing to initiate contact.
We have made progress in reducing physicality in the post area. Officials should continue to focus on post-play physicality during the 2018-19 season. Officials should look for displacement in the post. Offensive players cannot use a straight arm to ward off their opponent. Offensive players are allowed to post up with elbows bent. Defensive players cannot lay on an offensive player or swim stroke their arms.
33 white defends 30 black in the post. 30 black moves into and uses his right straight arm to ward off 33 white. This is an offensive foul and needed to be called. 23 blue commits 2 illegal acts on this meet and greet play. First, he displaces 50 gold and then uses both straight arms to ward off 50 gold. The official correctly calls an offensive foul on 23 blue. 24 red calls for the ball in the post area. 24 red moves into 22 white and uses his left straight arm to ward off 22 white. The lead official correctly calls an offensive ward-off foul on 24 red. 34 white posts up with his left elbow bent and calls for the ball with his right hand. 21 gold reaches with his left hand, lays on 34 white, and holds with his right arm. The lead official correctly calls a defensive foul on 21 gold. 35 white cuts through the lane and attempts to post up. 25 red uses his left forearm to displace 35 white. This is a defensive foul and needed to be called. 44 blue attempts to post up, and 25 white displaces him with his body. This kind of post physicality must be called. The lead official correctly calls a defensive foul on 25 white.
While on the subject of post displacement, we must do a better job of calling the first foul when an offensive player backs a defender down by bumping into him. It is imperative that officials call the first displacement foul. Not addressing this type of physicality only leads to more physicality.
1 white catches the ball in the post and leans into 4 blue. 1 white then lowers his left shoulder and displaces 4 blue. The lead official correctly calls a player control foul on 1 white. As 54 white sets up in the post, he uses his right arm to elbow 32 blue in the chest. 54 white then catches the ball in the post, lowers his left shoulder, and displaces 32 blue. Although 32 blue should receive an Oscar for his acting, the lead official correctly calls a player control foul on 54 white. This play from a couple of seasons ago depicts the growing trend by post players to back down their opponent. 20 red catches the ball just outside the post area and begins backing down 22 white, a legal defender. This type of displacement is a foul and needed to be called.
We will now turn our attention to rebounding plays. While we have improved in this area, it is very important to have the right official with the best angle calling these plays. Officials are instructed to position themselves so that they can call obvious displacement on rebounds, get to the proper position, and close down on all shot attempts. Officials should look for obvious displacement fouls, slight pushes, or chucks that displace opponents, arm locks, and increase our focus on illegal rebounding tactics during free throws. Let's look at some plays.
0 white blocks out for this rebound. 5 red first chucks 0 white in the back, then jumps in the air and swats 0 white on the arm. Both the lead and center officials are in great position and correctly call a rebounding foul on 5 red. During this shot attempt, 10 blue chucks 10 white. 10 blue clearly displaces 10 white. This was a rebounding foul and needed to be called. Free throw rebounding is equally important. During free throws, officials are instructed to look for players shoving from behind with forearms as well as with their lower body. Officials are instructed to look for this type of illegal activity and call the first foul. The offensive player in the second lane space pushes the player in the first lane space. After the initial look to the opposite lane for violations, the center and lead officials must focus on same-side rebounding. This will increase the chances of getting this play right. 21 white body walks 4 red toward the basket and then chucks 4 red with his left arm. The center official, in excellent position, correctly calls a rebounding foul on 21 white.
Traveling has become a major focus in our game. The stakeholders of the game all want to see our traveling call accuracy improve. Again, this year we will focus on perimeter and post travels. We must do a better job of finding the pivot foot on the perimeter and in the post. Officials are instructed to officiate from the floor up. Find the pivot foot and then move your eyes upward to officiate any contact. Being mobile and positioning ourselves properly will assist us in having a better look at traveling plays. Let's look at some plays.
13 red drives to the basket and attempts a jump stop off his right foot. After landing, he moves both feet. This is a travel and needed to be called. Both the center and trail officials have a great look at this play. We must increase our focus regarding traveling plays. 3 white drives the left side of the lane, attempts a jump stop by jumping off with his right foot with possession of the ball and lands on both feet. 3 white then pivots multiple times with his left foot. This is a travel and needed to be called. 5 blue catches the ball in the post with his left foot as his pivot. 5 Blue then switches his pivot to his right foot. The trail official, in a closed-down position, correctly calls a traveling violation on 5 Blue.
The Rules Committee has added the hook and hold or arm lock play into the definition of a flagrant foul. The Rules Committee believes that this deceptive and dangerous play must be removed from our game. The addition in the flagrant 1 foul rule reads as follows.
Rule 4-15.2.C.7. Illegal contact caused by a player hooking an opponent over or under the arm in an attempt to deceive the official into believing the contact was caused by the opponent. Depending on the nature of the contact or the result of the contact, this foul could be considered a flagrant 2 foul.
When an official believes that a hook and hold play has occurred, they are now allowed by rule to review the play at the monitor to see if a flagrant foul occurred. If in fact it did occur, they can penalize either a flagrant 1 or flagrant 2 foul.
During this rebound, 44 White blocks out 21 Black. 21 Black uses his right arm to lock the left arm of 44 White and pull him to the floor. A defensive foul is correctly called on the play. This season, the officials will be allowed to review this play at the monitor and would penalize 21 Black with a flagrant 1 foul. During this rebound, 10 Green uses his right arm to arm lock the left arm of 22 White. A defensive foul is correctly called on the play. This season, the officials will be allowed to review this play at the monitor and would penalize 10 Green with a flagrant 1 foul. It's worth noting that because of the leverage used by 10 Green, this play could also be considered a flagrant 2 foul. 1 Red tricks the official on this play. 1 Red hooks his left arm under the left arm of 2 Gold. The official is fooled into calling a defensive foul on 2 Gold. This season, officials will be allowed to go to the monitor to review this play. In addition to the defensive foul, 1 Red would be penalized with a flagrant 1 foul. Although 1 Green holds with both hands prior to the hook and hold, 3 Red attempts to trick the official on this play. 3 Red hooks his right arm under the right arm of 1 Green. The official calls a defensive foul on 1 Green. This season, officials will be allowed to go to the monitor to review this play. In addition to the defensive foul, 3 Red would be penalized with a flagrant 1 foul.
As spoken about earlier in this video, the officiating community should be focusing on screen and roll plays. Officials are instructed to determine who got to the spot first to adjudicate the legality of the play. All of the stakeholders of the game desire officials to more consistently enforce the bench decorum and coaching box rules. This is not about calling more or less technical fouls. This is about treating all coaches the same, whether the game is televised or not, and calling the rules as written. Commit to reading Appendix 3 in the rules book. Appendix 3 is very clear regarding the acceptable and unacceptable behavior by coaches. Before we get to the new rules, I want to provide a few reminders from last season. Last season, the Rules Committee extended the coaching box from 28 feet to 38 feet. This allows a coach to coach his team at the other end of the floor without leaving the coaching box. The Rules Committee was emphatic that with this added space, coaches should not be out of the coaching box without penalty. Officials should strictly enforce the coaching box rules. When a coach is clearly and completely outside the coaching box, officials should first issue a warning and subsequently issue a Class B technical foul. If all officials will consistently enforce the coaching box rule, the coaches will adjust and comply with the rule. Additionally, the Rules Committee asks that officials continue to penalize unsporting behavior. In order for officials to correctly adjudicate guarding plays, you must first know and understand how a player establishes legal guarding position and legally maintains that position. Let's look at portions of the definitions.
To establish initial legal guarding position on a player with the ball. The guard shall have 2 feet on the floor facing his opponent. No time and distance is required. The guard shall have established legal guarding position before an airborne player left the floor. To establish legal guarding position on a player without the ball. Time and distance shall be required. The guard shall give enough time and distance to avoid contact. The time and distance need not be more than 2 strides. The guard shall have established legal guarding position before an airborne player left the floor. To maintain a legal guarding position after the initial position has been established, the guard is not required to continue facing his opponent. Cannot have either foot out of bounds. May raise hands or jump within his own vertical plane. May shift to maintain guarding position in the path of a dribbler, provided the guard does not charge into the dribbler or otherwise cause contact. May move laterally or obliquely to maintain position, provided such movement is not toward the opponent when contact occurs. Is not required to have his feet on the floor when shifting to maintain, and may turn or duck to absorb contact.
Two seasons ago, the Rules Committee established that a defender, while in the restricted area, could legally wall up by establishing legal guarding position with both feet on the floor facing his opponent, jumping straight up in the air with his hands vertically raised within his vertical plane and attempt to block a shot. This play has added an exciting defensive play to the game. It is important to note that a defender must jump from position A and return to position A to adhere to the verticality rules and to be legal. This does not include movement caused by incidental contact.
This play is the epitome of a legal wall-up play. 42 gold catches a pass and drives to the basket. 4 white establishes legal guarding position in the restricted area and jumps vertically to block the shot. 4 white jumps from position A and lands in position A. 4 white caps the ball and is rewarded with a held ball. Well done by the lead official. Unlike the previous play, the defender on this play is incorrectly penalized. 22 blue catches a pass and drives to the basket. 30 white establishes legal guarding position in the restricted area and jumps vertically to block the shot. 30 white jumps from position A and lands in position A. This was a legal play by 30 white and should not have been called. 2 blue catches a pass and goes up for a shot. 4 red defends the play and attempts to wall up. 4 red jumps from position A and lands in position B. The center official correctly penalizes a defensive foul.
While we officiated the legally walled up defender in the restricted area well last season, we still have room for improvement on grounded secondary defenders in the restricted area. If a secondary defender remains grounded in the restricted area and there is sufficient contact for a foul, it must be a defensive foul. Let's all work to improve in this area. Now let's look at some plays.
13 black catches a pass and goes up for a shot. 22 white, a secondary defender, remains grounded in the restricted area and is correctly called for a restricted area blocking foul. Well done by the lead official for recognizing this and signaling well. 15 gray catches a pass and drives to the basket. 22 blue, a secondary defender, remains grounded in the restricted area. This play was incorrectly ruled a no call. This is a restricted area foul on 22 blue and should have been called.
Last season, the Rules Committee established a type of foul known as a loose ball foul, which includes team control fouls which occur during a loose ball, such as a fumble, a deflection, a muffed pass, or after the release of a ball for a try. This does not include team control fouls when the ball is passed between teammates and there is no deflection. If in the bonus, the offended team will shoot free throws. Officials did a great job last year of getting teams out of the huddles, replacing disqualified players, and dealing with injured players. Continue that great work and stay consistent with your messaging to coaches. Last season, the Rules Committee established 4 throw-in spots in the front court for all fouls and violations caused by the defense when the offense retains possession. This season, the Rules Committee clarified that when the offense or defense causes the ball to be out of bounds in the front court or the back court, the ball will be thrown in at the actual spot where the ball went out of bounds. Said a different way, all throw-ins caused by the ball being out of bounds will be made from the actual spot where the ball went out of bounds.
33 blue attempts to pass to his teammate. 14 white deflects the ball out of bounds near half court. The ball will be inbounded at the spot where the ball went out of bounds. 1 red passes the ball to his teammate, 31 red. 12 white deflects the ball and it goes out of bounds in red's back court. The ball will be inbounded at the actual spot where the ball hit out of bounds. 5 red, an offensive player in his back court, throws a pass to his teammate, 3 red. 3 red causes the ball to be out of bounds in his back court. Last season, the defensive team would advance the ball to the 28-foot hash. This season, the throw-in will be from the spot where the ball hit out of bounds.
There are 3 types of delays listed in Rule 4-10.1: administrative, coaches, and player delays. The administrative delays do not require a warning and result in an immediate administrative technical foul. They are as follows.
Failure to supply scorers with data per Rule 4-3.1. Consuming a full minute by not being ready when it's time to start either half or extra period. Team followers entering the playing court before player activity has been terminated, which prevents the ball from promptly being made live or prevents continuous play. The coaching community has requested that when an official warning goes in the scorebook, that they be informed. Officials are instructed to notify the scorer of the delay and then tell the head coach that they have been warned. The coach's delays are as follows. Bench personnel entering the playing court before player activity has been terminated, which prevents the ball from promptly being made live or prevents continuous action. Note, this type of delay does not require a warning and results in an immediate Class B technical foul. Failure to have the court ready for play after the final horn to end any timeout. This type of delay requires a warning. Delaying the game by failing to resume play immediately following the second warning horn indicating the end of a timeout, or when a disqualified, ejected, or injured player must be replaced. This type of delay requires a warning.
The coaching community has also requested that when a player warning goes in the scorebook, that they be informed. Officials are instructed to notify the scorer of the delay and then tell the head coach that the players have been warned. The players' delays are as follows and require a single warning.
Repeatedly delaying the game by preventing the ball from being promptly put into play, such as delaying the administration of a throw-in or free throw by engaging in a team huddle anywhere on the court. Attempting to gain an advantage by interfering with the ball after a goal or by failing to immediately pass the ball to the nearest official after a whistle is blown. Failing to provide sufficient space along the out-of-bounds line for a throw-in after being warned by an official per Rule 7-6.8.e.
The Rules Committee has prioritized the health and safety of the student-athlete. When a player remains down due to a potential injury, first, the official should position themselves to see both the injured player and the progressing play. Second, they should always prioritize the health and safety of the student-athlete. Rule 5-11.6 now reads as follows.
Article 6. Suspends play immediately when necessary to protect an injured player. In determining whether to stop play under Article 6 or Article 7, when either an offensive or defensive player appears to be injured, officials should always give priority to protecting the injured player by stopping the game immediately when the health or safety of the player appears to be at issue.
Officials need to be aware that the number of monitor reviews and the length of those reviews is under scrutiny by the stakeholders of the game. When going to the monitor, indisputable evidence is the standard. Indisputable evidence is used to describe something that is so true that there is no room for question or debate. The results of a monitor review should be confirmed, stands, or reversed. Please make every effort to get in and get out. The standard is pretty clear, and yet you must balance that with the high standard to get the play right. Bench decorum continues to be a concern nationally. It is important that officials consistently apply bench decorum rules each and every night. We also have to remember that coaches are allowed to spontaneously react to plays. Officials are instructed to be approachable and communicate effectively. When coaches go too far, issue a technical foul. Officials should not make this personal. The net result of bad behavior by a coach is 2 shots for unsporting behavior and 1 shot for coaching box violations. Let's all work to make the optics of bench decorum better in 2018-19. This instructional training video is intended to be the beginning of the learning process for the 2018-19 season. If viewed in conjunction with the periodic bulletins and the rules interpretations that are made throughout the season and posted on the NCAA men's basketball website, we will increase the possibility of officials calling the same play the same way during each segment of the season. A consistent approach by officials nationwide will only enhance the value of each and every official. If you have questions or comments on this instructional training video, please contact me via the email address on the screen.